Repeat, this is not a test. Stay tuned for further instructions.
Hey! Yeah, we broke the ceiling. We going from broke to billions. Sex up next, yeah, we plotting the pump. No vex for a hex, yeah, we locking it up. Post chain, no, we not in a rut. With a heart like Richard the Marcus, we best. I'm a day one sacrifice, yeah, we guess. And we going from broke to bees, we invest. Crypto, we grow with ease, we impressing. Free game, believe we been blessing. Streams with ease, X out all of the hate. Get hooked if you want, we just offering the bait. Early on, we could often relate how to navigate crypto and picking our route. It seemed hard, but we figured it out. Our team's strong, so we saying be calm, this is what we about. We broke the ceiling. We going from broke to billions. Sex up next, yeah, we plotting the pump. No vex for a hex, yeah, we locking it up. Post chain, no, we not in a rut. With a heart like Richard the Marcus, we best. I'm a day one sacrifice, yeah, we guessed it. And we going from broke to bees, we invested. Yeah, we broke the ceiling. We going from broke to billions. Sex up next, yeah, we plotting the pump. No vex for a hex, yeah, we locking it up. Post chain, no, we not in a rut. With a heart like Richard the Marcus, we best. I'm a day one sacrifice, yeah, we guessed it. And we going from broke to bees, we invested. With 4-5, we been flexing. 4-5, holding that.
Alrighty, folks. Welcome to the live stream. I hope you guys appreciated that little piece of music there. I got that done not too long ago. I love that song. It's dope. Worth every single penny. So, folks, look, I have a very, very special guest today. I've had the privilege of being on his channel before. And now I have the opportunity to have him on my channel. So it's very special. It is the great Corey Costa. He is the author of a new best-selling book called The Shapes of Skulls and Why They Matter. So, Corey Costa, thanks a lot for coming on the stream, man. How's it going?
It's actually a good book. I highly recommend it to anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
I personally had to delve into the human anatomy and get a bunch of different skulls in order to actually do it.
Right,
So,
yeah.
I got like 7 of them.
Oh,
I went to every continent to get a human skull. I went to North America, went to South America, went to Africa, went to Asia, went to Europe, went to Australia and Antarctica. And in Australia, all I could find was emu skulls, but I tried my best.
Well, we'll try not to hold that against you so much.
It's all right. Don't worry about it.
How you doing, man?
What?
How you doing?
I'm doing really well, man. How you doing?
I'm good, but like, have you not heard the news? Pulse Chain is delayed with the version 4. Is this not the time to panic? Is the sky falling scam confirmed? I mean, what do you think?
I mean, it's not time to panic. I mean, it's just it's not time to panic by any means. It's V4 is supposed to be out next week. I'm hoping it's in the next week or the week after. I know that it's basically because of the inflation differentials and stuff like that. And I'd rather it be done right than be released wrong. But the important thing is people need to realize is that timing is very important in this market. And as a result of timing being crucial in this market, we have to hope to keep that hype alive for Pulse Chain. And I'm just hoping that we don't get a V4 and then V4 becomes V5 and then V5 becomes V6, because then people are just going to think this is a boy who cried wolf type of thing. I mean, maybe not the Hex community, but people outside the Hex community, people are going to be like, this is just a boy who cried wolf.
I'm already hearing that, to be honest, from people.
So am I. Yeah. So am I. Even from my onboards, they're getting sick and tired of hearing it. Like, I told a couple of my friends of mine who I was like, yeah, you know, V3, this should be the last testnet. And then 3 days later, I tell them, oh, no, the V4. And they're like, we're not even surprised anymore. We're not even surprised. It's been almost 2 years. So, like, this is the state of people outside of the Hex community. Like, I know that like the diehard zealots in the Hex community are like fine with this. And listen, like, I get it. Like, I'd rather it launch right than launch wrong. But like, there comes a point where if I don't see, you know, something happening in the next 4 to 6 months, I'm going to start speculating on why. So that's just me.
Right. So if you had to kind of, I know we don't know, it's kind of a silly question, but if you had to guess, do we get Pulse Chain this year, next year?
I think it's, I've been saying next year.
You've been saying next year, 2024, really?
I have been. And the reason why is because it just seems like when one, and I get it, like, software is hard. Like, I really do, which is why I'm not trying to be so critical. But like, it seems like when one thing is solved or said, then another problem comes up. And it's like, it's already April, mid-April almost, of 2023. Now we have another test net. We have inflation that needs to now be fixed. And it just seems to me that, like, I'm kind of at a loss for words. It's not that I'm disgruntled, but I really hope that this launches soon. And I don't think it will. I think it'll launch next year. I'm sorry to sound so cynical.
No, it's I personally find it best to have cynical beliefs and then be positively surprised when you're proven wrong than the other way around, right? Always being optimistic and then always being disappointed is, I think, a kind of a worse way of operating. Do you think he's trying to time the market at all, or do you think that's kind of out the window at this point?
I used to think that. Yeah, I honestly used to think that he was I used to think that he wasn't timing the market for a while. But now it just seems like, because more and more things keep coming up, it makes more sense to me that they're timing. He's trying to time the market. And I don't think he's trying to time it for the 11K in Prey, because I I I really feel bad for the people who are waiting for 11K. Again, it's not financial advice, but 11K ain't happening. It really, in my opinion, is not happening.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I think that, that there is a possibility that we see Pulse Chain during the beginning of the next bull market, and I don't know when that will be.
Right. Yeah, it's similar to how Hex was. Like Hex launched, I think, at an extremely opportune time. I mean, I have the chart pulled in front of me on my other screen here. Yeah, it was May 2020, and we had the halving. I don't know when, but that it was a very opportune time, and I'm curious whether or not, Richard, it'll honestly suck if it ends up being somewhat the same. Do you think these delays have, because this is I've had versions of this conversation behind the scenes with people I know who are kind of like adjacent to kind of this whole RH side of things. Do you think these delays have affected the hype, the potential, the community? Do you think it's detracted from any of the potential?
In regards to, so like when I first joined the community in 2021 in September, I've never seen hype before for a project like this. In the 6 years I've been in cryptocurrency, I've never seen hype for a project like this.
Yeah.
And the hype was not only in the Hex and Pulse Chain community, it was outside of it too. The hype was everywhere, because I'm not just in the Hex and Pulse Chain community.
Yep.
I'm outside of it. But as time goes on and people forget trends and narratives and hype cycles, they go to the next shiny thing. And for me, I started seeing it wane during around mid to late 2022. I think that the hype cycle right now for Pulse Chain is not what it was in 2021 because of the boy who cried wolf type paradigm. But I do believe that hype will come back instantaneously once Pulse Chain is actually released.
Yeah.
But I do believe Pulse Chain will probably be more of a stealth launch than a timed launch.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that, like, I believe that Pulse Chain, we're not going to get much warning surrounding the day it's going to release. Like, I wouldn't doubt it if, like, Richard comes out and says, like, a day before, 12 hours before, that, okay, this is when it's happening. And it's like a day after. Or he just comes out one arbitrary day and says, "How's everyone doing again?" and then says, "Pulse Chain is now live." I really believe that is what he's going to do, and I kind of actually prefer that. And the reason why I prefer that is because we saw what happened last May, where Richard had a synopsis and said, "Oh, Pulse Chain's going to launch in May of 2022," and we all thought that was going to happen. And then when it didn't happen, what happened to the hex price? There was a lot of disgruntlement. There was a lot of anger from the outside community. So I would prefer seeing Pulse Chain launch stealthily. Like, you get a 12-hour notice announcement, that's it. And also that actually would I think would prevent a buy the hype, sell the news, like what happened with Hex this time. So with V3, everyone had massive expectation for V3. And there was so much hype being built up from Richard, and which was great, which was fine, over the last month. And then over the last month, and then when V3 finally came, we went from 12 cents to, I don't know where we are right now. I think we're at 7. And
Just under, yeah.
Yeah, and there's an inherent reason for that. There's a reason for buy the hype, sell the news, because that's just a narrative in cryptocurrency. Like, it happened with Phantom earlier this year. It was, went all the way up. There was a bunch of hype around it. It went to 65 cents, and now it's 45 cents. Is the fundamentals changed? No, not at all. My point being is that buy the hype, sell the news is a very real thing in this space, and I would rather Pulse Chain just launch stealthily, so there is no buy the rumor. So there is no. I would rather get concrete Pulse Chain updates, yeah, that's basically what I think.
Right. And so you touched on a couple things there. Now, one of the reasons why I'm so curious to talk to you, man, is because I think that you're a great example of a non-toxic hexagon, someone who sees the value in kind of RH ecosystem stuff, but also understands that, hey, other cool, interesting technologies exist out there as well. And maybe that's worth learning about, worth paying attention to, which I think that kind of attitude is what's necessary for reaching a kind of wider audience. But before we delve into, I think, some of the other things you might be interested, I would be curious to hear from you. What drew you to the RH side of things? What drew you to Hex, Pulse Chain, PulseX?
It was actually a guy by the name of Harry at Liquid Markets. I was cashed out of crypto in 2021 for 4 months, and I was bored. And I was like, what the hell do I do here? And he posted a thing on Twitter about himself, and he was doing a lot of trades, and he bought a Pulse Chain in September of 2021, and I learned about it. And prior to that, I got a thing in the mail from Hex, and I was like, what is this? And I threw it out, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Then a week later, I got a message. I mean, not a message. I went to a meditation course, and I was in a pizzeria, and this guy comes up to me in the course and says, what do you do for a living? I said, I work in crypto. And he was like, oh my God, have you heard of Hex before? I'm like, yeah, I've heard of Hex before, but I never really thought of it. I know who Richard Hart is. And then a week later, I found out about Pulse Chain from Illiquid Markets, Harry, and he's a great guy, and that's how I got into the RH ecosystem. I started, delving into Pulse Chain and what it was, and I saw the large community, and I know that community is more important than any tech, in my opinion, in cryptocurrency. And he was this community was just very welcoming. And I just kept doing, and I was like, let me do another interview, because at the time I was like, I started giving up on YouTube, but I did one interview, and it worked out quite well. So I just, stayed in the community.
Right on. Now, I know, like we just mentioned before here, that you like to talk about other things. I saw in your Twitter bio that you're a brand, correct me where I'm wrong here, brand ambassador to Syscoin. Is that correct?
Syscoin.
But
okay. Yes.
Right on. What value do you see in not just that particular protocol, but just why do you see value in being willing to take a look at other things in general?
Because how can you perfect your own technology if you don't know what's out there? How do you collaborate with other communities if you have no idea other communities exist? And if you don't, and if you do know the other communities exist, you're automatically hostile because they're not open to what you like. And this is not a hex thing. This is a ubiquity in every cryptocurrency. I think it's very important to be open-minded about different projects and different technologies, different communities, because that's how you grow as a community. That's how you grow as a project. That's how you grow as an innovator. So that's where I'm coming from in that respect. I really believe wholeheartedly that we in cryptocurrency, it's such a divisive model, and I think that's antithetical to the cypherpunk era. And I think that unity is more important than this tribalistic mentality. I know you can't weed out tribalism in the human species, but what you can do is you can try to be open-minded to other projects and other innovations and other communities. And I think that's very important for growth and utility.
Absolutely, I could not agree more, man. Like, it's funny. I think crypto is full of like autistic tribal nerds,
Yes.
and
Good way to put it.
and while look, there is, I kind of get it. I kind of get the maxi side of things. Right? There's so much bullshit out there, so many pump and dumps, so many just macro narrative, short term things out there that I very much so understand the appeal to sticking to something that you think is solid. But at the end of the day, I think with doing so comes a lot of like that ostrich mentality, sticking your head in the sand and just ignoring whatever else is out there. But sticking your head in the sand does not mean that what's out there is just not out there. It's still out there. Like I really disagree with this mentality of ignoring something and hoping it'll go away. No, like it won't go away. Things exist that you don't like, and you need to be able to understand them in order to grapple with it and be able to argue for your case and the pros and cons. And so I really kind of despise that attitude, but I kind of want to get a bit more of a sense as to what cryptocurrencies specifically you like outside the RH side of things, as to just kind of get a sense of like where you see value in the crypto space. Like, I know you've interviewed like Charles Hodgkinson's, how do you say his name? Hodgkinson. Right. Like, do you like Cardano? Do you like Polkadot? Is there?
I do.
Yeah. Could you delve into that a bit?
So I think that there's value in cryptocurrency for a variety of different ways. I think one, it takes away the power of the state, and the state is increasingly corrupt in multiple different countries, including the United States. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I believe this is a brand new asset class that creates a lot of utility surrounding life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness if done the right way. I believe that cryptocurrency is a digital, smaller government revolution, although it's becoming intertwined with the state, which I'm not really particularly fond of. But the maturation of this market it's expected. So I think that cryptocurrency in itself is a very revolutionary technology for it, because it gets away from Keynesian economics, which puts a lot of reliance on government regulation and government control of the economy. And I also believe that it's very inherently capitalistic cryptocurrency. So I believe wholeheartedly that cryptocurrency does have the potential to revolutionize the financial sector, or at the very least, kick the traditional institutions in the ass a little bit to realize that in order for your failing economic models to not die off, well, you're going to have to either adapt or fix the economic disparities that the state and the Federal Reserve have created over the last 50, 60 years.
That's such a good point, man. And it's so funny how I think oftentimes in the crypto landscape, we allow ourselves to get lost in this tribalism in between these different cryptocurrency niches, and we forget that at the end of the day, we're all on the same side of
Yeah.
things. You know, we're all trying to support an economic system that counters the shortcomings of traditional finance. And it's so funny because I think cryptocurrency is such a uniting force. And I
It
think
can,
for
yes.
it can be, and I think it ought to be. And I think the strengths of it come from its potential to unite. And it's so funny. I don't know what you think about this, but I think there's a large kind of, and rightfully so, kind of libertarian bent to a lot of people within the crypto market, which I totally understand the case for that. But I would actually argue that there is a strong kind of pro crypto side of things, even coming from a more left wing perspective, in the sense that cryptocurrency, I think, democratizes the ability of people to get some semblance of financial freedom. I mean, in no other market, historically speaking, had, you know, the little guy had the ability to front run the institutions. Now that's largely, you know, now started to change with, you know, Grayscale and BlackRock and with Bitcoin and Ethereum, but that's still not the case with perhaps Syscoin, with Pulse Chain, with their. Am I saying it right?
No, you're
Syscoin?
saying it properly. Yeah, saying it right.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think there are still a lot of pockets out there where the little guy can get in early, where the little guy can take what, you know, relatively speaking, little he has, and that little amount can actually turn into something that has a very large positive impact on his or hers financial standing in life. Man, like I see pro crypto perspectives from the left side of things, from the right side of things. I don't know about you, but I think focusing moving forward more so on those uniting factors is
I
what's
agree.
necessary for growth.
I agree. Without the uniting factors, I mean, the thing about cryptocurrency and why it's so easy for the state to conquer, not the tech, not the code, but the community, is because everyone's so focused on what technology is better. When realistically, all the technologies right now are still in their infancy. The majority of them. So you can't make a justification of what technology is better or worse on the basis of a technology that's not even mature by any means of the word. So for me personally, yes, it is refreshing to see a the political maturation of the perception of cryptocurrency. But at the same time, I believe that cryptocurrency right now, in regards to not markets, I'm sorry, in regards to the communities, the unity I'd like to see more of. I'd like to see less tribalism, even though I know for a fact that, like, this is not going to happen. But I can be an idealist as much as I can. But I do wholeheartedly believe that cryptocurrency can be a force for positivity moving forward regarding economic incentive, regarding economic liberty, if done the right way. And there's a lot of things that need to be rectified. There's a lot of leaps and bounds. There are a few onboarding tools. It's it's still very infantile in a lot of ways. There's too many bridge exploits. Interoperability really isn't where it should be. But you brought up before, like Polkadot and Cardano. Like, I'm a big fan of both of them. I'm a big fan of Cardano because they have a massive ecosystem. They have a massive community. They have Charles Hoskinson, who was a co-founder of Ethereum, so he has expertise. I like Gavin Wood as well, who went on to found Polkadot. I think that layer zero protocols that create their own ecosystems that are interoperable are very important. I think isolated blockchains are going to be left behind in the future, which is exactly why I'm very grateful that, like, for example, Power City is made Portal X for Pulse Chain, because I'm sorry, like you need to have that interoperability to be able to connect to different communities. Like, your blockchain can only go so far if it can't connect to anything.
Yeah.
It's like an isolated tribe. Like, yeah, it could prosper to the extent that that community can prosper, but does that inherently create success or attraction from the outside? Yes, but not to the extent that it could if there were more bridges. So I really think what Power City did with Portal X is massive, to say the least. So I think that this interoperability, I'm surprised it hasn't. The emphasis of interoperability was not as strong this cycle around as it should have been. I'm surprised.
Yeah, because I think scaling was like a big thing this last cycle. But I think as scaling gets closer and closer to being solved, perhaps some of these other considerations might become more and more important, like the interoperability. Um, Now, one thing you kind of touched on, which I really want to take a moment to kind of hover on this idea, and there's so many kind of adjacent considerations that we could delve into in regards to this one topic. So, but let me introduce the topic
Sure.
in this way, which is I want to applaud you for having the courage to reach out to people like BitBoy Crypto, because even though BitBoy Crypto's done things in the past that even I personally disagree with, and I think I've called them out in the past. Like, fuck your feelings. Your feelings don't matter. What matters is spreading the good words, spreading the fundamentals that you believe are positive, reaching out to other communities because it has a practical benefit. And so, could you speak a little bit to your experience, like talking with BitBoy Crypto, and what you think the benefit of reaching out and doing so was?
I think the benefit of it is, first of all, you have someone who, whether people agree with me or not, who has a inherent care for the space. That's the first thing. The second thing is someone who has connections in this space and out, who's actually really doing their best to bring the nefarious actors to light in this space and create bills that will impede this nefarious activity against blockchain and cryptocurrency. I think reaching out to these people, if you're a content creator or just anybody in cryptocurrency, it's important to learn from them. It's important to understand, how they got to where they are. It's important to learn their values. It's important to stay connected with what they're doing and how they're doing it, because you never know where you're going to end up. You're never going to know what they're going to end up and how they did what they did and what they're doing for this space. I mean, this space is really being fought for by individuals in this space. That's not really being done by people outside of this space. So you really want to know what the hell is going on with people like BitBoy or Charles Hoskinson or Gavin Wood or Vitalik or CZ. Like, these are important people to acknowledge and understand where they are in what they're doing. So I think there's immense value in creating that model. And also it prevents isolationism. Like, now people in the Cardano community know who I am. Now people in the Phantom community know who I am. Now the Bit Squad knows who I am. So it's not just one community who's aware of my existence. And I think that's how you grow. I think that's how you become more dynamic as well, by staying neutral in your form.
Right. Yeah, it's far more productive.
It is.
Starting a war with absolutely everyone you see is not a great way to build bridges.
It only alienates a community.
Yeah.
It doesn't help by any means. It only alienates people. Like this whole, for example, this whole Zen Hex feud is so fucking stupid. It really is. I see it every day where it's like it's a dick measuring contest between the two communities, and like the Zen community will attack Hex and the Hex community will attack Zen, and it's like, are we for real, guys?
Oh,
like did the guy on the playground, the kid on the playground steal your lunch money on both sides too? It's not just Hex, it's not just Zen, it's both, and it's just annoying. It's just it doesn't help, because if both these projects are going to inherently be successful in the future, why not emphasize collaboration or some type of, not even collaboration, camaraderie to some extent?
Yeah. I think it's because it's so funny, man. I think it's because there's a personal thing between.
I get it. I understand it.
Like, but that's why. But it's so petty. Like, get over yourselves, bro.
I get it. Like, I understand the vampire attack. I understand the constant swipes at Richard from Jack Levin. Like, I get it 100%.
Yeah.
And it's annoying. It is. It's stupid. It really is. So this is something that I do believe that is an example of like the feuds and rivalries that exist in cryptocurrency that are just, they could be, I don't know, better done in closed doors instead.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Boof on the Beat just mention this in the comments. But it's funny. It's true. I think it was me interviewing Jack from Zen. It got me banned on Twitter from Richard. Richard banned me.
He blocked you?
Oh yeah, he blocked me. Yeah,
Wow.
I don't know. I can't know the reason why, but it was like recently after I interviewed Jack, and I'm like,
Wow.
for what other reason would it be? So, yeah, yeah. So I mean,
That sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm surprised because I interviewed him probably about 6 months ago, probably before all this feud actually started. Well, not this feud. I know that I got, a lot of shit for it, but Richard, I guess he didn't block me. But I get why people do what they do. That sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
It is what it is. I always knew what Richard was. I like when I got into this thing, it's not because I thought Richard was some perfect and kind of angelic individual. I saw him for what he was. He was very good at what he does, but he was a human being just like everyone else with imperfections. And so even though it kind of sucked, I kind of think it's ultimately kind of funny. And all this stuff speaks to the very funny tribal nature of how crypto's
it's crypto, man. It sucks.
Yeah. But look, I wanted to ask you, what was it like to interview Charles? That was a big catch, man.
It was wonderful. I mean, probably the best interview I've ever had because it was somebody who not only understood cryptocurrency, but was able to take that practical application of understanding cryptocurrency from his and utilize his outside knowledge of history and economics and government enterprise, and utilize that to connect to, its relation and relatability to cryptocurrency as a whole. I think it was very rewarding to interview Charles Hoskin. I'm supposed to have him on again. I'm not sure when, but I'm in the talks of having him on again. And I think he's a brilliant man. I think that he brings a lot of value to cryptocurrency, and I think that he gets a lot of shit, just like Richard, that is unwarranted. So it was very rewarding to interview somebody who I would say is in the top 5 of crypto influencers. I mean, you really can't get bigger than him besides, I'd say, maybe Brian Armstrong,
maybe Vitalik,
TZ, Vitalik.
Yeah. But you know what though? Even those people, those are like who like Forbes looks up to.
Yeah.
Like within the actual crypto community.
Yeah,
people,
it's like Charles, BitBoy, it's Wendy O. Like
yeah.
That's a very good distinction because like I feel like Brian Armstrong and like Charlie Shrem and all those fellas, like they're very disconnected to the cryptocurrency community now because they were focused on building crypto enterprises rather than crypto communities. And that's okay, because crypto enterprises is how this industry grows. But the crypto community as a whole, like us, really looks up to people who are content creators, who are influencers, who are, creators of prominent projects like Cardano, like Vitalik, like CZ, like Richard. These are people that are venerated because they understand the value of community and they stick around their communities. So it was a very rewarding experience to interview Charles, and that's why I have my YouTube video with him as my like landing interview on my channel.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It was a very rewarding experience, to say the least. We were talking about, Cardano's midnight protocol. We were talking about how Cardano's pivoting for regulation. What his favorite component. I forgot what I asked. I forgot the other questions I asked him, but there were 7 questions. Then we did a little community AMA, but someone asked him a dumb question about like Ethereum, and it kind of annoyed both of us. It is what it is. But I spoke to him after, or I spoke to his representative after, and he's like, "I really like that interview. Don't worry about it. Nothing to do with you." So but it was aside from that, it was a very amazing experience, and I won't forget that ever.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's great. And I think Charles, he's such an intelligent guy, and someone like Charles speaks to the fact that there's different kinds of flavors that can succeed within the space. Like
Right.
Richard Hart and Charles, they're two very different flavors, right?
Very.
But they both are able to like have some version of success. So I think this speaks to
Yeah.
the fact that like, yeah, guys, like, and this is something that like I'm on about, which is Hex is great. There's a lot of reasons to love Hex.
Yep.
Hex is my biggest position until hopefully Pulse Chain goes live. Then Pulse X will be my biggest position. But with that being said, there's interesting technologies being built outside of this ecosystem, and guess what? Other things as well can perform well in terms of price appreciation. Maybe not as well as Hex, but the point is there is still value outside of the RH ecosystem. I think it's important to accept that reality in order to just simply keep up with the state of technology and what's going on.
And not to mention the fact, like, for example, I can empathize with this 100%. Like, for 2 years, I held one cryptocurrency. So I made 2 mistakes in cryptocurrency. In 2017, I held way too many cryptocurrencies. And in 2019 to 2021, I only had one cryptocurrency. And as a result of only having one cryptocurrency, instead of getting on to the 100x's, the 200x's, the coin that I held, which was Icon, it only did, which only is not, I wouldn't put it like that, but it only did a 20 to 22x when I sold it. And for a crypto bull market, that's pretty shitty, to say the least. So me staying with one project inhibited me from going into other projects. So, for example, my friend went into Cardano at 3 cents and sold it at $2. Like, you do the math on that. And so, if I were to just maybe, get out of my shell a little bit, I would have gotten bigger gains. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Hex won't do well next run. I'm not saying that at all. It's why I have Hex. But in the event that, let's say, Hex does a 10 to 15x from here, let's just say. I'm not financial advisor or whatever. You guys know what I mean. Let's say Hex's next run goes to $1.20, $1.30, let's say. Which is great, which is fantastic if you bought it where I was buying at 2 cents and 2.5 cents. But I also want to be exposed to Phantom. I want to be exposed to Cardano, Syscoin, a little bit of Ethereum. I got a decent amount of cryptocurrencies now. Not so much that it's over diversified, but it's important to have that diversity in coins that you believe in. I mean, and Pulse Chain and Pulse X, hopefully when it comes out. So, I think that layer ones will perform well as long as they have a very good community behind them. And that's why I think Cardano will do well. It's why I think Phantom will do well. It's why I think Syscoin will do well. It's why I think Pulse Chain will do well, because the community is backing them. It's not all about the tech, because trust me, if cryptocurrency's market capitalization was all about the tech, and tech determined the market cap and the popularity of cryptocurrencies, we'd have a very different top 10 than what we see today. So that's where I stand surrounding, my personal decisions in this space.
So I would like to try and get you to speak on this idea of like lessons learned in terms of portfolio allocation, because I personally find this particular topic extremely interesting. Because one of my whole things getting crypto is I'm trying to go from being broke to someone with some semblance of financial freedom, and so it's very important to review the actions of the past, learn from your mistakes, and try to optimize moving forward. So without giving financial advice, could you perhaps share some wisdom as to lessons you've learned in terms of portfolio allocation and how you would see perhaps a more optimal path moving forward?
Sure. So I think over diversification is a bad thing, because that means you are underexposed unless you have a lot of money. It's different if you have $5,000 to invest and you're putting $1,000 into 5 different coins. Instead of if you have $500,000 and you're putting fucking $50,000 into each coin, or $100,000, it's a big difference. But if you're your normal middle class investor that probably has anywhere between $4,000 and $10,000 to invest, I would recommend maybe three coins. And the reason why I say 3 to 4 coins is this: if one coin fails, you have the opportunity to recoup those losses plus more with another cryptocurrency. So let's say if one of the coins I had fails, or let's put it like this. I don't think this is going to happen, but let's just say, God forbid, Pulse Chain and Pulse X never released. Let's just say, okay? God forbid. Don't think that's going to happen, but I just want to make a point. If that happens, then at least I have other cryptocurrencies that can perform well in the next bull market where I'm not so reliant on one particular ecosystem, if that was the case. Again, I don't believe that's going to happen. I believe Pulse Chain personally is going to launch, but you have to be prepared on all avenues. For example, like a lot of people sacrifice for Pulse Chain and Pulse X, and they sacrifice their whole bag. And over the last year, they weren't able to get great prices on, let's say, Hex, because all their money was in a sacrifice locked up that they can't do anything now. Like you sacrifice in September of 2021, and that's great. You got into Pulse Chain, you got into Pulse X. But if you put all your money into that, well, you missed out on Hex at 3 cents, at 1.7 cents, at 2 cents, at 2.3 cents, at 2.5 cents, because you missed out because you put all your money into that one basket. So I believe personally, it's very important to be a little diversified so that you have one, exposure to the market, and two, just in case one project doesn't perform as adequately as you thought, you have others to rectify that.
Right. And if I can maybe add to that point as well, is having your investment spread out perhaps in different niches as well. Because if one niche narrative, like if you have something, let's say in gaming cryptocurrency, or something in layer ones, or something in DeFi, if gaming does shit, maybe layer ones or DeFi will do okay. But if DeFi is doing shit, but gaming's doing okay, that kind of thing as well. And also it speaks to the fact that one of the most important things when it comes to investing, and I think I've heard this from, I think it was Warren Buffett, was don't lose money. Or at the very least, through diversification, you have the potential of still having some sort of dry powder, some sort of playing money, if the worst case or something terrible happens with your other investments. Being able to still play the game is a very worthwhile. It's like having insurance, right?
Yes.
You don't think you'll ever need it, but if you do end up needing it, you want to make sure it's there, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
exactly. If you get into like a car crash without insurance, you're paying out the ass for insurance.
Right.
So that's the thing here. And you make a very good point where it's like, let's just say Phantom doesn't work out. Well, at least I have Cardano and Hex. Let's say Cardano doesn't work out. At least I have Phantom and Hex and other cryptocurrencies, let's just say. These are reasons why I believe that diversification is very important. And I have my diversification on the base of what I believe is a blue chip cryptocurrencies versus more higher risk cryptocurrencies. So I think that's also very important as well. I think that, listen, if you want to go with one cryptocurrency, I did it. I made money off of doing it. But it also doesn't come with its inherent risks. There's no question on that.
Right. Now, I want to ask a question that I know you're not going to like, but I got to do it to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I find it interesting. I know a lot of people don't like these kinds of questions, but
why do I wear a tank top on interviews?
Why do you wear a tank top on it? No. You feel free to answer that, but no.
Because I'm too lazy to put on an actual shirt.
It's good, bro. You're Jack. Show off, man. It's all good. But no. Look, I wanted to ask you, what is your? I'm trying to frame this in a way.
No, bro. Don't beat around the bush.
Yeah. What's your top 5 if you had gun to your head? Robert breaks in your house and he said, Corey, I've been watching your YouTube channel. I love it. You got to give me your top 5 cryptos right now or else. What would you say in that case? And of course, this can change, evolution, whatever.
Yeah. As of right now, I would say, and this is not in any particular order, Hex, Cardano, Phantom, Syscoin, and for a blue chip, personally, like a real blue chip, I'd probably say Ethereum. And the reason why I say Ethereum is because the community behind it is so strong, and I am one of those people that do believe that Ethereum will overtake Bitcoin if it continues on its trajectory. But I do believe things need to be rectified surrounding its validator paradigm. I think there's too many barriers to entry right now with Ethereum. But aside from that, I think Ethereum is a really good play if you're probably very wealthy and you're looking to not play with, what they call shit coins.
Yeah.
So those would be my top 5 as of right now. There are many other fantastic cryptocurrencies that I like. For example, I like Gala. I like AGI. I held AGI in 2017, and then they became a Cardano sidechain. I think AI is going to play a massive role in the next bull run. So, coins like Fetch AI and AGI. I also think there's an unknown cryptocurrency that a lot of people don't know about called Injective, which is another cryptocurrency, which is another layer 1. I think Change Finance is another cryptocurrency that people should watch. So these are other cryptocurrencies that I look at. Am I invested in them? Not necessarily. But do I think that they have a future? I absolutely do. I can actually just look at the coin market cap right now. Give me 1 second.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Because I'm actually genuinely curious on what the hell coins that I'm actually like. So let's see here. So I have my phone right here. I like Ethereum. I like Bitcoin because it's Bitcoin. I think XRP, if the case is settled before 2097, will do well. I think Dogecoin's backing from Elon does hold a lot of weight. I like Polygon. Polkadot, I'm a fan of. I just wish that Polkadot's coin was actually used for the transaction fees in the network. I think that there should be. I think that that's something that I think really would work. Chainlink, I'm a fan of because I think all blockchains need oracles. So I think Chainlink is the predominant oracle. I think Cosmos is really great too because it's an interoperable protocol. What else? VeChain, I think supply chain cryptocurrencies are great. Let's see what else we got here.
VeChain was a big winner for me last cycle.
VeChain was great, man.
Yeah.
I went back and forth on holding VeChain, and I unfortunately ended up not holding it. Singularity is another one. Let's go to the top 100, 200 and see what we got here. Fetch AI, like I said. Gala, which I think may have some value in the future because it's a gaming platform.
Thoughts on Illuvium? I know Illuvium and Gala kind of play in the same space. Do you have any thoughts? Or Illuvium? Are you familiar?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right.
No. What else? I've heard things about RSR over the last couple of years, but those are the coins that I'm personally watching, like outside of my own perspective. But I don't know much about ILV, to be completely honest with you, and I don't want to bullshit your audience.
No, I got you. No, I appreciate that answer.
Yeah.
What about? I'm curious. What about like protocols kind of building on and around the RH ecosystem? Like, for example, I know there's Power City, Liquid Loans, Fiat, Famous, the Internet Money, Wallet, Time. Do any of those kind of tickle your fancy? Do you think there's any potential with those?
So this is the way I'm going to answer this question. I've interviewed all of them. I think all of them have a bright future. Even before I highlighted Power City, I did. With that being said, I acknowledge the fact that they're startups, and investing in startups, unless you're throwing your pocket change in, is inherently very risky. Now, I've interviewed these projects, and I think they have a lot of potential. I like Power City a lot. I like Liquid Loans a lot. I like Fiat a lot. I like Internet Money a lot. I really do Text and Token a lot. I really do. But just because I like something doesn't mean personally I'm going to throw my money at it. So personally, I think that these projects, because they are the predominant projects launching on Pulse Chain, will get a lot of eyes and will probably inherently do well as a result. However, for me, am I invested in them? No. And I think it's just the risk appetite for me is just not there.
Sure.
But
yeah.
I believe in them.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point, which is, look, the frank truth is, and I like them for different reasons as well, and whatever, but the earlier something is, the more unproven a concept is,
Yes,
the more inherent risk there is. And so everyone
absolutely.
needs to come to their own conclusions as to what their personal risk tolerances are, what makes the most sense for your information, and then act accordingly, right? Like what might be okay for me might not be okay for you. Everyone has different risk profiles. It doesn't mean anyone's wrong or right. It's just a matter of
Exactly.
figuring out what's the most optimal path for your particular situation.
Exactly. And that's a very important notion. Like I think there's this belief that you need, in order to like a project, you need to invest in it. And I think that's bullshit, to be completely honest with you. I like a bunch of projects in this ecosystem, RH and not, but I'm not invested in any of them. Like, I'm going to use a perfect example. Like, I love what Power City is doing. And completely honestly, Power City, aside from KDP being on the team, Power City, with what they are building, with multi-chain technology, with Portal X, I think needs to be emphasized because I think that's very important for Pulse Chain. I really, really do. I don't want to be in an isolated chain. I don't, because isolation, like I said before, does not breed. It doesn't allow you to go very far. So what Power City is doing for Pulse Chain, I think, is absolutely incredible. And I say that, and I convey this a lot. But will I put my money into it? Did I sacrifice for it? No, I did not. But I will root for them and interview them and do videos on them because I believe in what they're doing. But I don't have to believe in, I don't know, what's a technology that I'm not invested in nuclear energy, but I'm aware that it has its benefits for humanity. I'm aware that silver and gold exist as stores of value, but I don't have any money in them.
Right.
So yeah. I think that there needs to be that distinction where you can like a project but not have to invest in it. Maximus DAO, for example, I don't have any money in the perpetuals. I don't have any money in the what's the other ones? There's Maximus and then there's Hedron and
HSIs and
yeah. So I don't have any of that. So it's but I believe in them. I think they're very fantastic technologies that complement the Hex ecosystem. I think Hedron and Costa are great. I think that Maximus and all of their perpetuals, Deci, Lucky, Trio, Party, I don't know the other ones, to be honest with you.
They are like 20 at this point.
Yeah, I can't remember all of them.
Yeah.
But these are great innovations for the Hex community. Would I personally invest in them? Personally, I would rather just invest in Hex, but I understand why these projects have massive value and are attractive to people who want to put money into Hex.
Right.
I'm sorry, not into Hex, into other perpetuals. I see nothing wrong with that. But for me, I play my risk appetite is not as high as many others are.
Right. And another thing too, man, especially in the bear market, there's no need to like really just try and go out there and like increase your risk profile to try and find something that'll do well. When you're in a bear market, when you're close to all-time lows, you're already getting in at a good valuation. So there's no need to I don't want to frame it in like in a negative way, but I like to say there's no need to go dumpster diving, right? Like, I'm not saying those projects are dumpster diving, but just to get the point across is that in the midst of a raging bear market, there's good valuations all around and things that are perhaps arguably more well proven, right?
I like to be in well-established cryptocurrencies because chances are the well-established ones will perform
either good enough or great or
For me personally, like I would rather be in, and this is something probably a lot of people disagree with me on, but I would rather be in a cryptocurrency that I'm very optimistic about getting a 20 to 30x than be all in on a cryptocurrency where I'm unsure, but there's a possibility of it to be 100 to 150x.
Right. Like it could be 100x, but it could be a 5x.
It could collapse.
Yeah, right. And I'd rather go to a thing that I think I'm more confident.
Exactly.
I could probably get a 30. Right. That makes sense.
That's my thinking. So
yeah.
All right, go on.
No, I wanted to ask you straight up. I want to ask this to kind of all my guests moving forward. I know there's no way of knowing, but
Yeah.
if you had to try and just do a wild guess, what do you think the next Hex all-time high price is? The next cycle all-time high is?
It's a very good question. You normally don't answer this question, but I'll do it for you because I just don't want it to bite me in the ass. Not financial advice, but from its bottom, which was like 1.7 or some shit like that.
Yeah.
With Pulse Chain releasing, with the documentary hopefully releasing, which I said last night, and I'm sure I've gotten shit for because I haven't checked my Twitter that much. I said I'm curious why the Pulse Chain documentary, the Richard documentary, has not launched yet. If all these cards play right, I would say anywhere between 90 cents to $1.50. If these don't play, I still believe a rising tide lifts all boats. If Bitcoin hits an all-time high, I believe that Hex will perform well. But it really depends on the problem right now is Hex's price is very deterministic on the future of Pulse Chain. In the last year and a half, Hex, you can't deny, I'm saying rhetorically, you can't deny that Hex's price has been very tied to Pulse Chain. And we saw that recently with V3. And now you're seeing it with people selling because of V4. It's very related to Pulse Chain. So if Pulse Chain releases in time, wherever that may be, I think it's a recipe to allow Hex to perform quite well. If it doesn't release, and we get a boy who cried wolf type mentality for the next year, or even I dare say 2 years, which I'm hoping is not the case, I think that stifles its maximum ability.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, it's probably largely contingent on a lot of these unknowns, which is why it's so hard to talk about it in a reasonable manner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you about your potential, Pulse Chain launch strategy. How, if you had dry powder sitting on the side, how would you go about, accumulating the Pulse Chain launch? That even includes PulseX. Like, what would you do pre-bridge? What would you do post-bridge? How much thought have you put into this? And not financial advice.
No, the reason I'm laughing is because a lot of people have asked me, like I have this massive strategy, and I really don't. My strategy is just to hold. But if you're asking me, if I didn't get into the Pulse Chain or PulseX sacrifice,
you have some dry powder, and
sure. So what I would personally do is, I believe, because Pulse Chain has massive hype around it, there's going to be a pump when Pulse Chain launches, because people have waited so long. I don't believe in the narrative that people are going to sell their bags because they've waited so long. I don't. Because once people actually have their hands on the asset they've been waiting for, I don't think people are going to sell it. But what I would do is I would wait for the hype to die down. Every project that launches has its hype, and then it collapses. Not collapses, but the hype itself dies down. Personally, I think what's going to happen is I think PulseX is going to drop in value because I believe that a lot of people who sacrifice for PulseX specifically sacrifice for PulseX to get more Pulse Chain, to get Pulse Chain when the bridge opens, so that they have an opportunity to get cheap Pulse Chain. That's what I really believe what happened. So I would say personally, what I would do is I'd wait for the hype to die down, but I'd also keep my eye more on PulseX than Pulse Chain because I believe PulseX will probably be a lower valuation than Pulse Chain at launch. I would wait when the hype dies down. That's what I would do, which would probably be about 2 to 3 weeks. Kind of like what Liquid Loans is actually doing. They're waiting for the volatility to relax for about a month or so. That's what I would do. I mean, am I going to be yield farming? No. Am I going to be, we're providing liquidity? No. But for the people
any ratio trading?
No. I'm not, bro. When I generally don't even interact with blockchains. I don't do any of that. I just hold and, I just wait. So, but everyone has their different strategies. For me, it's just I'm going to hold.
Right. Yeah. And I appreciate that answer because I think that kind of answer works for the most amount of people. I often find that a lot of people are so anxious to do things, but I'm like, dude, you don't have to do anything. just sitting down
you
and
lose
doing
it.
nothing, going outside, looking at the sky, can might for a lot of people end up being far more profitable than doing a bunch of things that you're unsure of, that carries risk with it, that
Yes.
was ultimately unnecessary, right?
And you say risk, which is very important because,
Yeah.
like, you don't think, again, rhetorically speaking, you don't think that nefarious actors are not going to try to, like, create sponsored links on Google or fucking create nefarious dApps that have a similar contract to one of the third-party projects, or, you know, or to PulseX's DEX or something like that. Like, these are risks you have to weigh in, and I'm not taking that risk to make a little bit of money on LPing or for ratio trading or stuff like that. It's just not for me.
I hear you. Well, look, man, we're up against an hour here. I want to start wrapping things up. Is there any kind of wisdom you would like to share to the people in terms of lessons you've learned from your time being in cryptocurrency? Just some final words of wisdom, and then you can plug your stuff before we wrap up here.
Yeah, sure, man. Get a hardware wallet. That's the first thing. I don't care what anybody says. Get a goddamn hardware wallet. If you got more than a week's pay in, what's $69 to protect what could be, 4 figures, 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, just because you're lazy? Get a hardware wallet. Don't share your seeds. Don't type them on your computer. Don't be like one of those people who got 2-inch wee-wees and have to announce on Twitter how much cryptocurrency they have, because that's the sure sign that you become a target. And I would say don't keep your money on centralized exchanges either, but don't also connect to malicious dApps as well. Always be careful what you're connecting to. If you're not familiar with the blockchain and you're going around like snooping around trying to connect sites to your MetaMask, like, chances are you're going to fuck yourself over. And hardware wallets cannot protect if you sign a malicious confirmation. They cannot protect that.
Yeah.
So be aware of that. And also, don't feel shamed by ideologues that shame you for taking profits. I'm sorry. Fiat, and a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but fiat is king. I'm not going to the local deli and buying a ham sandwich with fucking Bitcoin right now. I'm just not. It's not that. It's not that way yet.
Yeah.
So I'd rather stay. I'm not buying a house with Bitcoin. I'm not buying, a bike with fucking Ethereum or Hex or something like that. Like, be aware of that and have a profit-taking strategy, because the last thing you want to do is do what I did in 2017, didn't make any money and had to wait till 2021. This market, I think the bull market will start probably within the next 6 to 9 months. And make sure to have an exit strategy. Like, and also don't believe in the perma bulls, because the perma bulls on Twitter, if you've noticed, they become the perma bears. Capo, for perfect example. Capo was going for 200, 300K Bitcoin last run. Now he's calling for 10, 11K and is still in denial that there has been a paradigm shift of narrative and sentiment. Don't listen to those people. Chances are, if people are calling for 200K next run, it ain't going to happen. Just like 100K. Personally, don't follow those type of people when they go into euphoria. Because once you go into euphoria, like, people will start giving you outlandish price predictions. Like, when you start seeing people say, like, Hex is going to $10, $15 next run, that may be a good time to take profits. I'll be watching
exactly.
people saying that.
Yeah, no, that is a very good way of putting it. It is so, you said so many important things. Get a hardware wallet, protect yourself. So goddamn important, but also fucking take profits.
Yeah.
Especially when you're feeling euphoric. If you wake up, you look at your thing in your portfolio, you say, "Oh my God, I've never had this much money before." That is when you know it might be a good time to take profits. Yeah. When you want to hug the closest person you see, you look at your portfolio. That's when you know you want to take profits. Look, that's actually an extremely good point. Look out for signs of your own personal psychology, like feeling euphoria. Because, man, I felt moments of euphoria back in the last cycle. Like, literally, there was a moment where I looked at my wallet, I looked at my dad, and I gave him a big hug. But looking back at it, I was like, I was literally experiencing euphoria in that moment. I should have fucking sold, and I didn't. Because
that happened to me too, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, that's such a great point. Look, man, do you want to plug your stuff before
Yeah,
we
yeah,
wrap
yeah.
up here?
Sure. Thanks a lot, man. I
Yeah.
saw you put my links in the description, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at Corey Costa 123. I know, very original. And you can find me on YouTube. I actually just typed my channel in the live chat. It's Corey Costa's Crypto Coins. You can find me there. I don't have Instagram. I don't have TikTok. I don't have Facebook. I don't have any of those platforms or Snapchat or whatever. I just have Twitter and YouTube. So you can find me at those places. I try to upload it once every day, but I think I'm going to relax with that a little bit because it's kind of burning me the hell out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's brutal. So I'm going to start doing maybe like once every 3-4 days or something like that after April because it's just
longevity is super important, man.
bro. I've been doing interviews every day for almost a year.
Oh,
and it's like
that's a lot.
And sometimes it's more than one.
Yeah.
So you can find me there.
Okay. All right. No, that's great. Everyone, go and give this man a follow. He does great interviews, has great knowledge. Man, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for coming on my channel. I think what you do is great. I think your dynamicism surrounding cryptocurrency is very warranted and very needed.
I appreciate that. I can't wait to go and look up what that word means after this.
You're dynamic in your approach. You don't look at the point.
I understand. I got you. Appreciate it a lot. Everyone, thank you all so much for watching. I'll wrap it up here. Until next time, take care, everyone.
Take care.